Hey, what's up everybody? Jason here. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking it out. Today I'm taking a look at Sonible's new Smart Deesser plugin. So I did review the Smart EQ plugin a few weeks back. You can check that out here if you'd like. So they were kind enough to send me this plugin. I did not have to pay for it, but like all my other videos, this is not sponsored. So let's get into it. First of all, if you don't know what a deesser is, it's basically the marriage between an EQ and a compressor. So you can think of it as something that's designed to get rid of what are called sibilants and plosives. So sibilants are the S's, ch, sh, those types of harsh sounds, and plosives are the p, d, t, those types of sounds. And the being a marriage between an EQ and compressor, it'll basically try to just reduce the volume in those problem areas. And what's different with the Smart Deesser plugin is that the algorithm is allegedly trained to look for those things. So you're not messing around with thresholds and frequency ranges, split bands, wide bands, those types of things. You're just worried about the actual sounds themselves. So let's take a look at what the feature set is for this plugin. All right, so the interface is pretty simple, and just cheating and looking off of the feature sheet, they claim that it's the most natural sounding deesser thanks to their AI technology, and you can reduce your sibilants and your plosives in one plugin, where typical deessers only focus on the sibilant parts. The other cool thing is you can shape these instead of just reducing it. So a typical deesser will just reduce the highest peak that it finds based on the threshold that you set. This one will actually reduce, not just reduce, but allow you to shape and or reduce the entire sibilant. So if you had a s sound, a typical deesser is going to take the first part of that transient and lop that off. The Smart Deesser is supposed to process the entire thing, which gives it more of a natural sound. So if you've ever heard tracks with vocals, or maybe you've been working on stuff and it just sounds off, you hear like little peaks right after the initial S gets chopped off, or the volume of that gets pulled down. That's because of the threshold settings and how you've got the deesser set up. So you might just notice some warbliness or some wonkiness with the vocal. This claims to get rid of that stuff. So it's going to use different processing for those sounds as well. So it's going to use different things for the S type of sounds as opposed to the K and the T and the P sounds. So your plosives and your sibilants are getting processed differently, which they should because they're different sounds. And what else does it say it'll do? It'll say it will automatically re-S to improve dull and lisping things. Okay, that's cool. And huge range of options for customizing the processing. Well, I wouldn't say huge range, but there is a pretty good set of options here that you can do. So let's do a quick tour of the interface. Much like their other smart plugins, you've got one button here to analyze. So you hit that and then hit play, and it will analyze your signal. She said she would do a shikadance dance with him and her. So there you go. It has done the processing. And the other options you've got in the UI here, this one's pretty cool. You can have up to 8 different slots, which is essentially having 8 instances of the plugin running, if you want to think about it that way, or 8 presets. So you can set up each one of these however you want, and then you can quickly flip back and forth to test out different settings, which is pretty cool. You can do your presets here. So once you've got stuff here, you can save your presets for however you want. The other options down here are pretty simple. All deessers have a full or split range mode. So full range mode means it's going to process the entire frequency spectrum. Split band mode is going to allow you to pick. This is one thing that's different with this plugin, is you can separate the plosives and the sibilants with what's actually getting processed. So you can set your ranges here by dragging these things, or you can do it by dragging up here where the sibilant and the plosive upper limit ranges are. So you can modify those. And you've also got the same thing as you can hear in other plugins, the monitor signal, which is what it's taking out, or the processed signal. You've also got little headphone icons beside the sibilant range and the plosive upper limit, so you can just solo those and you can hear what it's taking out. And down at the bottom is really where the magic is. So this is where you've got your controls for suppression and shaping. So you can set the color, soft, balanced, or sharp. You can adjust how much you want that signal to be compressed for what it's detecting, and then you can adjust the intensity of the sharp, balanced, and soft settings color here for both sibilants and for plosives, and you can turn each of these on or off. So if I just wanted to process plosives, I can do that, or if I want to process both, I can do that here. And then finally in the bottom right, this is how fast the plugin is going to respond. So do you want it slow, kind of in the middle, or fast? Okay, so for this test, I just recorded a little small sample of audio that has a bunch of S's and T sounds in it, and I'm going to compare this with Waves Siblance, which is one that I use more or less all the time, and the stock Logic plugin, so you can hear what the differences are. I'm not going to do this in a full mix, which I normally do, because for something like this, I think it's important to hear this in an isolated kind of just spoken line thing to really magnify the effects of what this plugin can do. So let's get into it. All right, so here's the unprocessed. She said she would do a shikadance dance with him and her, provided. Now let's start with the stock Logic Deesser first. So for the stock Logic and the Siblance one, I just used a female vocal wide band preset because both of them have basically similar presets. Now the controls are a little bit different on these, and whatever deesser you're using, you might find you've got maybe some different controls too, but generally speaking, they all have some type of frequency selector, split or wideband, filters, and a threshold, and some type of reduction. Just the interface is a little bit different. So these are probably set up to do similar things. I'm going to start with those presets, and then for the Sonible one, I'm just going to let it do its magic because it does not have any presets. So let's hear this with the stock Logic. She said she would do a shikadance dance with him and her, provided. She said she would do a shikadance dance with him and her, provided. All right, so now let's listen to what Waves Siblance is doing. She said she would do a shikadance dance with him and her, provided. She said she would do a shikadance dance. All right, let's compare that to the Smart Deesser. She said she would do a shikadance dance with him and her, provided. She said she would do a shikadance dance. So right off the bat, it is processing the entire plosive or sibilant, because you can hear it's catching the end of the D and the T sounds. And if you watch the screen here, you'll see that in the detection window. She said there's the D, that first blue peak right there. That's the end of the D sound. It's grabbing the whole thing. Neither of the other two were doing that. All right, so final thoughts. That was just a quick test. I will do another more in-depth test. If you want to see one, drop comments below, because I'm really only concerned with how it works in a full mix. I was more interested in just hearing how this would respond differently based on the claims that Sonible puts in the marketing materials. So if you stack it up to what they said it actually does, it's more natural sounding because of the way that their AI works. I would say that's true. You could tell the differences between this and the stock Logic one and the Waves Deesser. So sometimes you might notice, depending on how you have settings with either compressors or your deesser plugins, warbliness, where certain parts of the S sounds louder than the other. This did seem to sound more natural than the Waves one, but I could probably tinker with the Waves one and then maybe add some corrective EQ and some compression to get it to be the same. But I think really that's the whole point of this plugin, is it gets you to that place faster. And I said the exact same thing with the Sonible EQ plugin. It lets you get somewhere faster, which I really think is the main benefit. I think what I like about this one, maybe more so than the EQ one, is it gives you a little bit more control and options for specifically what a deesser does. So it's a very specific tool, and I think the additions of the plosives and the sibilants and the simple controls at the bottom makes it a lot easier to use than some of the other deessers out there. Now typically, again, if I'm using Waves or the stock Logic one, I'll start from a preset and work from there. It's nice for this thing to just analyze the signal, and then I get some simple controls at the bottom to tinker around with. So the other settings that they talk talk about handling different sounds differently. Yes, you could tell. You could tell it was catching the end of the D and the T sounds, so it's processing the full range of the sibilant or the plosive, and the suppression does something different for each of those too. You can definitely hear the differences between the two. So for me, well, first let me talk about the price. It's 89 euros introductory offer, 129 euros once it goes full price, which is probably 160 Canadian. And to be honest, I don't think I would buy a solitary plugin for that much. Now, if I was doing this full time, maybe. I mean, Waves always has 3,000% off their plugins. Go to their website right now. It's going to say buy one, get 1,000,000 plugins for free, or upgrade for only $29 and get these 5,000 plugins. So there are bundles out there, and I'm sure that Sonible's probably going to bundle this with another set as well. But 160 bucks for a solitary plugin is pretty high for me personally. That said, it is better than the Waves one for sure, and it's definitely better than the stock Logic one, so you can get to a place faster. So my philosophy on plugins is spend the money on the ones that help your workflow the most. Don't spend your money on whiz-bang ones that don't really do anything, that they might claim to process a sound and polish and all these other types of things, but I would spend my money on things that make my workflow speed up. And I would probably skip the other plugins. So hope you enjoyed this short, quick take of Sonible's new Deesser plugin. Remember to like and subscribe. Drop a comment if you've got any questions, and if you want to see me use this in a full mix. See you next time.